After the beginning of the construction of Shokaku, her sister, the Zuikaku, started construction of the second last ship of the class. Zuikaku translated to English meant auspicious crane or the lucky crane. She was laid down in the Kawasaki shipyards on May 25, 1938. The ship was launched the next year and was commissioned on September 25, 1941. Originally, both ships were designed with the island on the port side midship, but after trials with Kagi and Hiryu, the design was changed to the starboard side about a third of the length from the bow. Zuikaku weighed 29,800 tons at sternward displacement. Length was at 257.5 meters, beam at 26 meters, and draft at 8.9 meters. 8 boilers and camp-on geared turbines connected to 4 shafts produced 160,000 shaft horsepower. She had more horsepower than the Yamato class. Speed was at 34.5 knots. Armament consisted of 16 5-inch Type 98 guns and 36 25mm guns. Later during the war, armament was increased. Radar was only fitted after the Battle of Coral Sea. 2 hangars were placed and 3 elevators were added. Flight deck was wooden and hangars were enclosed. She was commissioned on September 25, 1941. Around 84 aircraft could be carried in the hangars, both active and spare. Both ships formed the 5th Carrier Division with Zuikaku as the flagship. Zuikaku carried 18 A6M fighters, 27 D-3A dive bombers, and 27 B-5N torpedo bombers. There was a distrust in their air groups as they were new and didn't see any action compared to the other carrier air groups of 1st and 2nd Carrier Division. Pearl Harbor was her first action. On December 7th, her first wave consisted of 25 dive bombers that would target Wheeler Airfield, and 5 fighters attacked the airbase at Kaneohe. In the second wave, 27 torpedo bombers armed with bombs attacked Hickam Field. Her aircraft also attacked the Australian bases at Rabaul in January 1942 and Lae in New Guinea. In April, Zuikaku, along with Kido Butai without Kaga, took part in the Indian Ocean raid, where her dive bombers attacked the British carrier Hermes and the heavy cruisers Dorsetshire and Cornwall. Her next fight was the first carrier battle in history. In May 1942, the first of 6 carrier battles of the war began. Carrier Division 5 was assigned to support Operation MO, the invasion of Port Moresby. The American carriers Yorktown and Lexington were sent off to counter the operation. On May 8th, after locating the American carrier task force, a strike from both ships was sent. This strike hit Yorktown once, it hit Lexington with a pair of bombs and a pair of torpedoes, and Lexington later sank. Zuikaku lost most of her air group. In return, 2 waves attacked Carrier Division 5 and all targeted Shokaku as Zuikaku was hidden in bad weather, but sent out most of her remaining fighters. Shokaku wasn't as lucky as 3 bombs landed on her flight deck and was forced to retreat. Zuikaku had to return to Japan as well, and the operation was cancelled. Remaining aircraft and air groups were sent out to the 4 carriers that would later be sunk in the Battle of Midway. Both were in refits and repairs, and radar was also added, but it wasn't as good as the American version. Then Shokaku and Zuikaku formed the 1st Carrier Division. Both were fitted with 6 triple 25mm guns. Then they were sent off to fight the American carriers in the Eastern Solomons. The first wave of 27 dive bombers and 15 fighters were sent off to attack Enterprise. A second wave, consisting of 27 dive bombers and 9 fighters, was sent off, but it didn't find its target. Combat Air Patrol intercepted the first wave, but still those dive bombers managed to hit Enterprise with 3 bombs. 4 dive bombers from Zuikaku and 3 from Shokaku broke off the attack and went off to hit the battleship North Carolina, but none of the bombs hit. All 7 of these aircraft were shot down by anti-aircraft fire. Japanese carriers lost 25 aircraft. At the end of October, the 4th carrier battle began, the Battle of Santa Cruz. Zuiho joined Carrier Division 1 and Junior also took part in that battle in another fleet. After spotting the Americans, a strike of 64 aircraft was launched from the 1st Carrier Division. 21 dive bombers, 22 torpedo bombers, and 21 fighters were sent off to attack Hornet. Shortly after that, at least 1 bomb from US scouts damaged Zuiho. A second strike was sent off, and Zuikaku sent off 16 torpedo bombers and 4 Zeros. The American carriers responded with small attacks, one finding Shokaku and hitting her up to 6 times, but she survived. The first wave of Japanese aircraft hit Hornet with 3 bombs, 2 torpedoes, and 2 damaged dive bombers slammed on the ship. The second strike approached Enterprise, and despite the number of torpedo bombers, they split their attacks to multiple ships, but only achieved a hit. A B-5N crashed on the destroyer Smith. 9 of the 16 torpedo bombers were shot down during the attack. Then Zuikaku and Junyo launched an attack on Hornet to finish her off. Zuikaku's air group consisted of 7 torpedo bombers, 2 dive bombers, and 5 Zeros, as most of her air group were shot down in the first 2 waves. Most of the torpedo bombers were armed with 800-kilogram bombs. One of Junyo's torpedo bombs hit Hornet, and one 800-kilogram bomb also hit the flight deck. Japanese carriers, with the exception of Junyo, then retreated. In February 1943, Zuikaku covered the evacuation of Japanese ground forces from Guadalcanal. In May, she was assigned to counterattack the Americans in the Aleutian Islands, but this operation was cancelled before she got there. Then her next engagement was the Battle of the Philippine Sea in 1944. She, along with 8 other carriers, were tasked to counter the American carrier fleet supporting the invasion of the Mariana Islands. Her sister, the Shokaku, was hit by 3 torpedoes from a submarine, and after explosions, she sank stern first. Most of her aircraft were shot down in the Mariana Turkish Shoot. On June 20th, Zuikaku got hit by a bomb, but she survived. Then 42 25mm anti-aircraft guns were added, bringing the total amount up to 96. 8 28-round rocket launchers were also added. In October 1944, Zuikaku, along with the Zuiho, Chitose, and Chiyoda as the flagship of Ozawa's fleet, was sent off as bait for the American carriers so the battleships could push without air attacks. Only 180 aircraft remained on the 4 ships. A small strike was sent off to lure the American carriers, and they managed to sink the light carrier Princeton. The remaining aircraft used the kamikaze tactic to sink the escort carrier St. Lo. In the Battle of Cape Engano, Zuikaku got hit by multiple bombs and torpedoes. Damage control teams did an amazing job, but still, more bombs and torpedoes hit her. A total of 9 bombs and 7 torpedoes hit Zuikaku, and she later sank as the last of the carriers that took part in the attack on Pearl Harbor. Her final mission was a success, as Task Force 38 was diverted to go north and leave the transports without cover.